For a lot of people, interviewing customers can be a nerve-wracking and anxious endeavor. So today we're going to talk about how to overcome your customer interviewing anxiety. And most of us have anxiety around interviewing for a couple reasons. The first being that we're afraid of losing customers. You know how hard it is to actually get someone to agree to do an interview, and you really don't want to mess it up when you're having a one-on-one conversation with them, because you'll embarrass yourself and then eventually they'll never turn into a paying customer or someone who uses your product. It also feels really awkward to ask these questions. You're trying to balance having a real conversation with someone but also trying to follow a script and achieve a certain goal. And if you haven't practiced it much, it can feel really awkward managing all these things simultaneously. Plus, it feels like we're often inconveniencing the person that we're interviewing. You know, we're getting so much out of these interviews, it feels like they must be giving up something. And so it feels like we're just inconveniencing them and taking up their time. And then finally, the whole experience can make us feel inept. We're asking a bunch of questions, our customers are going to use a bunch of language or jargon that we don't understand, and we're not going to feel very smart. And of course, we're fumbling with all these questions, and we've never done it before, and we don't want to get embarrassed, and we're nervous, which makes us more anxious. And the whole thing just makes us feel kind of dumb. Luckily, though, there's a relatively straightforward way to overcome all of these anxieties. And I'm going to tell you my approach. And it's one that we're basically just going to develop your interview skills through a crawl, walk, run sequence. So we're going to start you off very basic, and then as you increase your skill level, you're going to get closer and closer to what it feels like to interview a real customer until you're fully confident that you can interview a real customer confidently. So the first step I want you to take is I want you to look at the ultimate interview script that you're going to use when it's time to interview your customers. You can use one at customerdevlabs.com/script. And I don't want you to actually use that to interview people yet. I just want you to look at the questions so that you know ultimately what you're going to ask of your customers when it's time to interview them. Once you've taken a look at that script, it's time to do the crawl phase of developing your skills. And that's through partner interviews. And when I say partner interviews, what I mean is whatever partnership means to you, whether that's a significant other, whether that's someone you live with as a roommate, whether it's your co-founder, I want you to work on having daily interviews. So in these daily interactions with someone, I really want you to focus on the challenges that your partner is experiencing. So this sounds a little bit like, hey, how was your day? And what was the best part of your day? Which sequences really well into what was the hardest part about your day. And now that you've opened up the discussion around their challenges, I want you to be really curious about what's going on in their life, about why this is hard. So ask them to tell you more about their challenge. See if you can get the entire story about the challenge, what happened before the challenge, during, and after the challenge. See if you can elicit some emotions from them about those challenges. To do that, imagine yourself in their situation and what feelings might come up for you if you were in their shoes. So if you think it might be frustrating, you can say something like, oh, well, that sounds like it would be really frustrating to me. Was that frustrating to you? And now you're getting to have a conversation at the emotional level. And you're actually empathizing with your interviewee, in this case, your significant other or your roommate. You're listening on a deeper level. And then from there, you can ask them, hey, what do you think you're going to do next? And this is offering them a chance to explore different solutions without you having to, feel like you need to fill the space with offering a solution. Because when you're just listening, when you're genuinely listening, you're just letting them talk things out, and you're not trying to fix any of their problems. And that's the skill you want to build here. When you're doing your actual interviews, your goal isn't to offer a solution right there and then. Your goal is just to listen. Hear their emotions, hear their problems, hear the words that they're using to describe those problems. So to do that, try and get yourself to ask 5 questions in a row during this conversation without having to answer any questions. Really focus the attention on your interviewee. And remember, now is not the time to offer solutions. Because if you're trying to offer solutions either now or in your actual customer interviews, You're expending energy that you would normally use to come up with those solutions, and you're saving that. And you're saving that energy so that you can focus on asking your next question and empathizing with them and making them feel safe sharing their difficult emotions. All right, so now that you got the crawl step down, it's time to take a walk. So after doing daily interviews for a few days, start interviewing your friends and family. So you can do this through phone calls. Maybe you call up a parent or a sibling. Maybe you're going to a barbecue or a friend's party, and these normal conversations that just come up as small talk, use this as an opportunity to ask someone, like, what's the hardest part about their job, or the hardest part about raising their kids, or the hardest part of the project they're working on right now. And again, you're segueing into challenges here, and as soon as you talk about someone's challenges, get curious. Get genuinely interested in their challenge. Ask them, when was the last time they experienced that challenge? And you want to know both the story, but also when it was. Was it a week ago? Was it a month ago? Was it a year ago? And then ask them, what does it feel like to experience that challenge? Again, you're making an emotional connection here. And maybe you won't put the words in their mouth explicitly by asking, was that frustrating to you? But you could say something like, oh, that sounds like that would be scary to me. What did that feel like to you? And so again, you're making a connection with them, but then you're offering them a chance to fill in the blank on their emotion. And then finally, ask them what they're doing to try and solve it. Again, it's not your opportunity to solve the problem, but just ask them what steps are they taking. This is going to get you ready to start asking your questions about your competitors, other solutions they're looking for to solve the problem. Again, concentrate on asking 5 questions before being asked any. Don't worry about counting the questions. Just really have an intention to ask more questions than you answer and to listen more than you speak. And then finally, use this as an opportunity to restrain yourself. You're going to have solutions. They're going to come to mind, but really practice holding off on offering those solutions. If you've got something that you think can really help them, then great. Just don't mention it during that conversation. Wait a couple hours or a couple days and then offer the solution to them. So you can build that muscle of restraining that problem-solving part of your brain and really develop the ability to listen with real empathy. All right, now that you've walked, you're ready to start running. And you can do that through networking interviews. So you can go to meetups or you can go to startup events. And basically now you're going to ask your customer interview script. These are the same questions you're going to ask during the customer interview, except you're not doing them with your actual customers. You're doing them with people who feel like your customers, but ultimately, if you end up screwing things up, you're not going to feel so embarrassed about it. So again, ask them, what's the biggest challenge they're facing? So that might sound like, hey, Susan, nice to meet you. What are you working on? Oh, really interesting. What's the biggest challenge your company is facing right now? Again, get curious and then ask them about the last time they encountered that problem that they're talking about. Understand both when it happened and what happened when they encountered that problem. Ask them why that was hard. Here again, we're pointing to the emotional subtext of the problem. And to do that, you can say something like, oh, that makes sense that that's hard, but I'd love to know your perspective. Like, why is that hard for you? Next, you can ask them about the solutions they're trying and what's not ideal about those solutions. Again, these are the same questions you're going to ask during your actual customer interviews. And by this point, you should probably be able to rattle off 10 questions or so before anyone asks you anything. This is in part because you're getting more comfortable with this approach, but also because you're talking to someone who's really passionate about their problems, right? They're at a networking event, you're asking them about their startup. Just like your customers will be eager to talk about their problems because it's their job to solve their problems. And then in terms of offering solutions, don't offer them during the conversation, but definitely take some notes about the problems that they're encountering. Either on a business card, your own or theirs, or in a notepad, and then follow up after the conversation. The next day, write them an email with some suggestions on things that they might be able to do to solve their problem. Maybe you can make some introductions to some other people. And this right here, this is the core of the Silicon Valley culture. This is what great networking is like, where you genuinely care about connecting with someone else and helping them. So not only are you building your customer interviewing skills, you're building your network and networking skills as well. All right, now that you know how to crawl, walk, and run, ready to fly. And now you can interview your customers with confidence. Get your interview script. Again, you can grab one at customerdevlabs.com/script. And when you're interviewing your customers, remember what it was like for your interviewees, your partner, your friends, your family, the people you were networking with. Remember what it was like for them. Did they give you the cold shoulder? Did they flip you the bird? Did they look frustrated? Most likely they did not, because people really enjoy someone else genuinely connecting with them and being interested in their problems. Your customers will feel the same way. You are not inconveniencing them by genuinely listening to their problems. Especially if you're not trying to pile on solutions. If you're offering a sounding board for them to just air their problems and maybe even think about them a little bit, you're doing them a service. On top of that, you're going to take what they give you, you're going to use that as inspiration for a solution, and then you're going to reach back out to them and offer that solution to them. So you're genuinely helping them solve their problems. Along the way, you're learning how they describe their problems, where they look for solutions to their problems, what your competitors are and the deficiencies in your competitors, and you're getting that emotional language that you can use to make a connection with your customer. Not just when you're talking to them, but also when you're emailing them or whenever you're creating an ad campaign or marketing copy. When you leverage their emotional words, you can make a deep connection with them that tells them that they can trust you, that you understand their problem, and you are likely to be able to solve it. Now, if you want a little extra help on developing your interviewing skills, including how to accelerate your skill development, some tips on eliciting and asking about emotions, this thing that can be kind of tricky to do in this business context, and also what it feels like to be interviewed, to be on the other side of the table so that you can use that experience as a confidence builder when you're actually having an interview. Check out the Interviewing Like a Pro exercise in the Focus framework. This exercise is the 12th exercise in the first workbook of the Focus framework, and it'll walk you through step by step how to accelerate your interviewing skill development, how to talk about emotions with confidence and in a comfortable way, and get you the experience of being interviewed so you can use that when you're actually interviewing someone to give you confidence about what their experience feels like. All right, my friends, you now know how to crawl, walk, run, and fly your way to overcoming your customer interviewing anxiety.